Hey everyone, so today Jupiter has gone direct. I'm sorry, that's not true. No, Pluto has. There's a big difference between Pluto and Jupiter. So Pluto has gone direct. And I always like to talk about the energy when any planet goes retrograde or direct because it's such a potent turning point within consciousness. They're very much marked themes on the soul journey. So one of the things that Pluto speaks to is shit, elimination. We use the word waste, but it's an interesting word because waste doesn't really exist. Like there's no notion in reality of something that's just like waste. Everything goes somewhere. Everything is a part of the great cycle of life and death and rebirth and regeneration. And thus our relationship to the idea of elimination relative to Pluto is a little bit distorted because culturally and really pretty much everywhere around the world there are nuances, but collectively we don't have a very positive and healthy relationship to the elimination cycle. And everything is everything. So how we deal with our shit is really a reflection of how we deal with our shit. Here in the West, in the United States, and in general in Western countries, there's predominantly this perspective of, get rid of it. It'll go somewhere. But we're kind of blind to where it goes. What are we polluting? So, when we go to the bathroom, for example, we have this whole weird system of using water and trees to flush our stuff down. And it's weird. And then, it has to go through this whole water waste management system, and it takes a lot of resources. And living in my van, I love what I do because it actually goes right back into the earth. I go to the forest every week and I dig a good hole and get my feet on the earth. And I really enjoy having this direct relationship where what I'm eliminating is going back to the complete cycle. In other countries, it's a little better in some regards, but then we have the idea of like, where do you put your trash? And so often we'll just, throw something away and it feels like, okay, it's done, it's out of my system, but it's not really gone. There's no such thing as away. It just goes somewhere else where it'll very, very, very slowly / kind of not at all biodegrade. So in general, the way we deal with our physical excrement, our actual food and substance waste, is one of sort of just pushing it away, not really dealing with it. And in many ways, that's a great metaphor for our emotional and psychological excrement. Everything needs to regenerate. Everything needs to go somewhere. And when Pluto moves direct, there's an invitation to really claim greater responsibility, empowerment, and clarity for how to move our psychological energy into circulation. And what isn't recycled becomes shadow. So this is not just our negative qualities and things that we're not conscious of. It's also our power, our gifts. What we do not share creates stagnation. And what we do not feel, what we don't actually need, begins to actually eat ourselves up from the inside out. It becomes putrid. That's the interesting thing about elimination excrement. It's sort of reflecting this very interesting fine line between poison and medicine, because you don't just poop and leave it somewhere. You create a space for it, ideally. If you want to create a human manure system, which I love doing, I'm so looking forward to doing more of that in my life, where it can sit over time and it can be broken up by bacteria, by the elements, by the worms, by the insect. Everything in nature wants to break it up. Like it's the will of life to regenerate and to put things into circulation. So shit can become nourishment, nutrients, very useful material if we deal with it properly, if we understand the cycles of life and regeneration. And Capricorn speaks so strongly to the idea of boundaries and containers. So here we are really learning how to cultivate the clarity, to create the container, the space in our life, to allow for a metamorphosis, to allow for a transmutation of consciousness, to hold and contain our own deep or inner processes. I see this all the time. We can really think about this analogy on many levels. Imagine someone that wants to share something. They want to get a message across. They're posting, they're sharing, they're telling people, but no one really listens. It doesn't really catch. So they have this unmet desire, this desire to actualize a vision, a message, to be a teacher. And so what does it look like for them to create a container, to create a space in their life, to allow what is inside of them to really express and regenerate, to become something, to move energy? It might mean taking a class, right? Using their resources to cultivate skill and knowledge, learning how to write, learning how to articulate, developing skills as a public speaker. Or it might mean creating the container to actually create a platform and build oneself as a teacher, build a business, build a platform for people to then come and meet you. If we have physical issues with elimination, with releasing energy, what does that invite, right? If you keep on eating, if you keep on living the same life, but we're not letting energy circulate, it'll create more stagnation and dis-ease. So that invites us to reflect on how are we creating habits in our life? What are we eating? What can we introduce to allow for greater relaxation, greater assimilation? It invites such introspection and mature reflection on, okay, how can I create more circulation in my life? There's nothing more freeing than not holding on to the past, physically, emotionally, psychologically. And we have the power to think about it, to think, okay, how can I let go of what I have? And one of the symbologies of Pluto is where we all die at a certain point. The body dies, personality dies, all the things that come with this lifetime. It's very, very short, very ephemeral. It falls away, but we'll take with us whatever we're psychologically holding on to. That's what remains. And so to do the work, to become self-reflective, so we can do what is necessary and cultivate the spaces in our life to move our energy in circulation so that we're not holding on to anything. And this takes a lot of awareness. This can really bring us into sticky areas and patterns within our relationship. Where are our holding patterns? Where are the places where we get stuck in the same emotional states? Right? All of this invites us to look at it. And the thing with Pluto is, there's a very strong, powerful purging and determination quality that can come with it, but also a really deep gentleness is needed. Because a part of the Plutonian journey, the evolutionary journey, the journey of cycling energy, is one of becoming subtly penetrative in our awareness, accessing places that have become very hardened or stuck or fixed in their ways, specifically with Capricorn. And so gentleness to see and meet what's there, to meet our shadow, to meet our resistance, to meet our patterns, to meet where energy is getting stuck. Right? How did people develop really amazing human composting systems? They thought about it first. They thought about, okay, what is this thing that's coming out of my body? What does it want to do, right? Looking around at nature, how everything poops, and pooping goes back to the soil. And that there are bugs and microorganisms that facilitate that process. That's how we became aware of the need to create a very healthy environment for bacteria in our own gut, which is also a Plutonian thing, to break things up. So we have a growing awareness of this in the world, and more people are becoming aware of how they're treating their human shit. More people are becoming aware of probiotics and healthy bacteria. And in general, becoming more aware collectively of the idea of shadow and working with what is unprocessed, unconscious content. And we're also becoming aware of the need to circulate our gifts, our treasures. This is why I feel in the past couple decades, modalities that really focus on deeper psychology, deeper issues of healing, trauma, and cultivating greater empowerment and permission for us to be who we are. Of course, this is really just blossoming in the world. It's still very new, but if you think about it, this whole realm of self-empowerment is a pretty relatively new phenomenon, but it's important. We as a species need to learn how to exhale. And that means everything. And I find for myself that my suffering really comes in holding on to what I have. So cooperating with our evolutionary journey and really embracing this life of consciousness means looking at ourselves and discovering how we can let go, to live in peace, to let go of what we have, which allows for us to transform and evolve and grow. And it allows others to transform and evolve as well. So as Pluto moves direct in Capricorn, it is a turning point. Yes, empowerment, but also it can be a stressful energy, like, ooh, a lot of content. It can feel like you're constipated and you haven't let go yet, right? That's the energy of it. It's now beginning to move forward. So, as always, magnesium, big fan. Hydration, put some Himalayan salt in your water or whatever. Lots of ways to do it. Breath. And look to see where's Pluto in your chart. Where's natal Saturn? Because Saturn really is the holder of all of this. It rules Capricorn, and Saturn tells us what are the areas where we can cultivate greater responsibility and work and self-knowledge to build a conscious life, to move our gifts out into circulation. But as with all things Saturn, it's about deconditioning habits and ways of thinking, beliefs that we have about who we're supposed to be, what's allowed, what's not allowed. We have to kind of get into that realm so we can realize, oh, I've been holding myself back. I've been trying to fit into this box. I've been operating from shame. So we give softness, we give more permission to those places within us. And it allows us to live here in peace and to do our work and to share ourselves. So that is my blessing for us all as Pluto moves direct and as Saturn in transit also begins to move towards Pluto. We are just beginning. It is a powerful journey that we are just starting through the end of this year into 2020. And time is on our side. We are on our side. Life is on our side.